Hello, you fucks. Welcome to John Solo's Beard Brigade. I'm John Solo. You are not, and we are, sorry, we had a couple technical difficulties over here. It turns out that, I'm not very good with tech. I want to be. I try to be. I'm not. So yeah. Anyways, what we got going on this week? I'm going to get us into the show here real quick here because we're running a couple minutes late. First off, we have been working fools lately. Me, Trace, all the friends and the Brigadiers that hang out with us, Jody, my lovely wife, everybody. We've been working our asses off. Last week we did 2 books. I believe it was Baby and the Warrior, and that was from Victoria Sue. And we finished out the week with Little Patty Logan's Prosper Woods Wolves Book 2, and that was Curse of the Flower Moon. And I'm pretty sure that should be out today or tomorrow, somewhere in there, if ACX does its thing like normal. So we have been cranking them out, just pumping. We just started into Nora Phoenix's Foster Brothers series book 2. That's called Hired Hadley. I'm very excited about that. And we should have that done almost by the end of the week, I would think. Get that submitted off. And yeah, we're good to go. This week for the videos, we have Ramblin' Gremlin. Now, it's kind of a special deal this week. See, little Alyssa Gramlin's kind of a big deal. I don't know if you know that or not. And what she wants to do, she really wants to perform in front of a crowd. It's hilarious to me. But I understand it. I like it too. So we've been kind of streaming our Ramblin' Gremlin videos in our Discord channel. And we'll record them for the few people in there, and then we put them up on YouTube. Well, so this week, we're going to start things a little bit differently. We're actually going to stream into the Facebook group here, so you all are going to get an insider's peek first at it. And we're going to be doing that on Thursdays at 11 a.m. Now, that's a different time slot for our videos. Normally, we do our live videos later on in the afternoon. We realize that. But hey, anyone that wants to join in on the fun, that'd be awesome. And you also get a sneak peek of it in the group there. It's going to stay in the group, so you don't necessarily have to go out to YouTube to see the video. And then, of course, we'll still post it up on YouTube afterwards. Probably on Thursday afternoons now instead of Fridays, but we shall see. It might still be Fridays after renting them out. So that's the news there. Yeah, past that, it's a pretty normal week. We're just busting them out. After Nora's book this week, we're moving on to Mortician Night. It's Command and Care book 2. I think it's called Born Daddy. I suspect there's going to be a daddy in there somewhere. But that's our weekly announcements that we got coming up here. Everything is business as normal, and we are rocking along. Now, my guest today, we've had on once before, and you guys know him well. Everybody in the Brigadiers are huge fans of Casey Cox. So I'm just going to go ahead and flip on the screen here. We have Casey Cox coming all the way from Australia. Casey, how the hell are you, buddy?
I'm doing well, John. How are you?
I am Mondays, man. I don't know if this is it like that in your world, like Mondays are just everyone contacts me. Are your Mondays any different than the rest of your week?
Well, our Mondays are technically your Sundays, so it's actually a good day because all the American stuff doesn't kind of kick in until the Tuesday. So Mondays are still pretty cruisy, but it just means that Saturdays usually aren't because then we're dealing with Friday stuff. So it's a bit of a funny time warp thing happening.
You are lucky, my friend. Although, yeah, so right now, that it's like that with everything in Australia, right? We talked about this last time. The toilets flush backwards, and you guys are coming into winter right now. Is that right?
We are, but we've had unseasonably rainy weather, and it's so humid and muggy, and there's been some flooding happening again for like the 3rd time. So the weather has just been so crazy. So it's actually like fan aircon weather at the moment, which is very weird for, May. It's very weird.
Yeah, we get that here too. We actually had a proper spring in Ohio this year. This doesn't happen every year. It kind of reminds me of when I was a kid. I have a theory on this, by the way. My theory is that
Oh, yeah?
the weather, I think, is shifting by 1 month. That's my theory on it. Global warming, call it what you may. I don't really care. But the fact is that it used to be our springtime really kind of happened in April, right around in there. In Ohio, where we get 4 real seasons. And in Ohio, the springtime, it shifts from being about 35 degrees and it moves up to about 55 degrees and it starts to rain like crazy. And that happens for a month. And then we move into summertime. Now that is in May is when that happens. And it's been like that for the last 10 years
Yeah,
or
right.
so. So my theory is that we're
Yep.
kind of, it's like the earth kind of tilted a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, we've got the same thing. I think we're in a La Nina system at the moment. So we're expecting a really wet winter, whereas normally the winters are dry, the summers are wet. So yeah, it's all just a bit funny at the moment.
You don't get snow, do you?
We do in Australia in the southern parts, but not where I live. Up here, it's yeah, if it's if I have to wear like a sort of a jumper or a sweater during the day, it's exceptionally cold. Doesn't happen very often,
Everybody's saying in the
which
crowd
I'm
that
not
they're,
complaining about.
yeah. I used to like wearing the hoodies because I used to be really fat, man. It was fucking horrible. So I'd wear hoodies to cover up my fat. Now I don't. I lost a
Right.
shit ton of weight. I don't have to do that anymore. But we're absolutely at the point now where like the tank tops that I wear in the booth and in the videos and stuff because it gets hot. These are like appropriate outside now, and it's freaking perfect. We went
Awesome.
jeeping. Yeah, we went jeeping yesterday, or tried to. And I took the top off the Jeep, so I got some sun. Now I've got a little burn on my nose that's going on there. So yeah.
What do you mean you tried to go jeeping?
So in the state I'm in, America has 50 states, right? And in Ohio, they don't like off-roading Jeeps very much at all. It's not, they don't. So in other states, what'll happen is they, in the lifetime of a road, you might say, a road starts out and they pave it and it's all good and everything else. And sometimes it doesn't even start out paved, and those are the ones that are best for me. So they start out maybe graveled a little bit, and then they decide eventually, you know what, we don't need that road anymore. We're not going to handle that. So the road could go one of two ways. It could get paved and turn into a nicer road, and then eventually it grows up and it becomes like a highway and shit. Or they decide we don't need that road anymore. They stop maintaining it. Those are called unmaintained roads, and those are what I'm looking for as a Jeeper. Yeah, they stop. There's
Right.
no maintenance. They get big ruts in them and shit, and they're fun to drive on in a Jeep because then you got to disconnect your sway bars and air down your tires, and that's what I'm looking for, the fun. So most states, they just leave those there. Well, we don't need those roads anymore.
Yeah.
Whatever happens to them, come what may, we don't care. And then I can drive on them with the Jeep, and it's a lot of fun. Ohio, they say no, nah, you're not allowed to do that because somebody might get hurt. So in my state, they rope off those roads, and they won't let you drive on the unmaintained roads anymore. And it's sad. Sometimes they make them into little
Right.
ATV trails, like those little side by side dealies. I think you guys got those there. Sometimes,
Yeah.
but they don't want the Jeepers out there. I don't know why, but Ohio in particular sucks. So what we did was we went looking for unmaintained roads, and we found like
Right.
20 of them, right? But not a single one of them we were allowed on. They had them all blocked off, and they do everything to stop us. They'll drop a tree in front of the damn road, whatever. But so we tried. It was a gorgeous day, anyways. So yeah.
Because I was going to ask you, like, if they're blocked off, you can still maybe try and maneuver your way around them, but no, it doesn't sound like you can.
I mean, I've got a winch, dude. I can get the shit out of the way. There ain't nothing stopping me if I
I can
really
get
want
through
to.
anything.
Yeah, we can. Where we're going, we don't need roads. But yeah, you don't want to
Right.
get in trouble, and I don't want to cause problems. Or that's not our intention. So we gave up, but we had a
Right.
wonderful day. We took the dogs. The dogs' heads were hanging out the windows and shit. It was pretty awesome there. So.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, yeah. So I've lost track of where we are with our series that we're working on here, the Vet Shop Boys. I don't know what's out in audio now and what isn't. Do you have any idea?
Yeah, I think the first three are, and the fourth one is coming, I think, next month, I want to
Beautiful.
say. Yeah.
I
I
lost.
should be more across this, but it's it's tricky.
Well, I had a lot of fun. I missed one of the books in my deadlines. Okay, so the way
Ah,
for anyone that doesn't know, Tantor, they book me in blocks sometimes. So they booked the first, I think the first three or something like that with me, and I got all those locked into my calendar. And then they booked. It was
right.
like 4 and 5 together in another block, and then finally 6, which I think you are still yet to write. Is that correct?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So I got the first 3 on my calendar. Everything was just fine. And then we switched
Yep.
systems to the way I was tracking all of my projects. When we did that, somehow 4 slipped through the cracks. Now,
Oh
this
no.
doesn't, yeah, and it doesn't mean I didn't get it done. And in fact, I hit the deadline. But there was
Yep.
a point in time where I was looking at them, and you received an email from me saying, dude, can you tell me what the titles are? Because like I
Yeah. They're
And
so similar.
yeah, incredibly so. You're not the only author to do that, but I think you've realized the trap that
Yeah,
you fell into there. Are you planning
big
on
time.
doing that with other series? Are you going to name them all the same like that?
No, I'm going to allow myself complete freedom that every single book in a series can be called something completely different and unique. No more locking myself into like a naming convention that just confuses me. And then I'd have to try and remember like either the characters or the number of the book or whatever it is because yeah, it's just so yeah, it's too simple. It's great for consistency and I think people like it and it's fun. But yeah, when you're thinking about them, and especially if you've written it 6 months ago or it came out a year ago, you're trying to kind of orientate yourself, and it's a little tricky sometimes.
Yeah, we don't even. There's a running joke with us where we don't even pay attention to the titles most of the time anymore. I will Vet Shop Boys 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's normally how we do it, but Tantor does not. They do not, and
Yeah,
that
right.
that caused a problem. What have you got? I I'm anxious to see what you have coming up after this series. Like, what are you writing right now? Because these were really fucking good, dude. Especially for your first book as being book one. They were hilarious, and like professionally done too. Anyways, I'll shut up. What are you working on now?
Cool. Well, the first thing is I think Vet Shop Boys are going to continue is sort of my plan for at least a little while longer. I've got like at least a few more stories in there. So I think that will kind of keep going into 2023. But at the moment, I've also kind of stuffed myself up a little bit too because I'm actually writing the Vet Shop Boys so far in advance to try and sync up the book release with the audio book release. It means that I'm not writing in order, and so I'm kind of really far ahead on the Vet Shop Boys series, but then like really far behind on absolutely everything else. So yeah, it's a little messy at the moment.
I get it.
But
And
sorry, you go.
no, you go. I'm sorry. Guys, by the way, because we're on completely different sides of the world, the delay is worse in these, so I'm sorry entirely. I'm trying. I suck at shutting up. So, Casey, it's my fucking bad entirely, man. We need to see each other in person at some point. But anyways, please go ahead. You're
Absolutely.
kind of stuffed up on one.
Yeah, so I have a standalone that's coming out in June, but I wrote Vet Shop Boys number 5 in April, but it comes out in August. But then I had to like write my June release basically in like May. It just kind of crosses over when you don't release if you don't write and release books in the sequential kind of order. So I'm all caught up now, and it's really good. But yeah, it was just a little confusing, a little scary there because I had this crazy kind of deadline myself too, which I had to meet because even by the time you finish writing the book, it's still at least a good, for me at least, 6 to 8 weeks before I can release it because it has to go through that whole editing process, there's a lot of steps in that. So, yeah, it's been a hectic little period of time here.
I'm going to come back to the editing thing in a second. The standalone, is that actually a standalone, like not involved in any of the universes you've currently created?
That's right. It's called Nothing Special, and it's set in Australia. It's kind of just a very different story. It's a story that kind of came to me a while ago, and I thought maybe it could be like part of a series or part of an existing series that I had, but it's just it's quite unique and different, and there's like a bit of a twist in it that doesn't lend itself to necessarily being in a series because it's not series have to have some sort of consistency sort of to them. So if you read book 1, if you read book 10 of a series, there's something that kind of unifies it, place or style or characters, and with this one it just wouldn't work. So it's a total standalone. It's my first ever standalone, so I'm very excited about it.
You have you came out of the gate running strong. Little things that I will notice consistency wise with authors that have been around a while. One is word count. You've consistently hit right around within 10,000 words of a word count for an entire series, which is impressive. Chapter word counts, pretty fucking consistent. Consistently hitting
Okay.
all the points of a trope within each of these stories and consistently keeping the characters all speaking with the same voice. one character doesn't start out being aggressive and then suddenly gets soft and that sort of thing. All the characters' voices themselves.
Right.
I'm not saying my inflection in the voice I give the characters, but the actual characters themselves are consistent across an entire series. You told me that you'd never
Yeah.
written before. Did you? I don't know. Did you make a deal with the devil? How did you fucking jump out so quickly into being how did this happen?
I don't know. I researched. I just did what, I always do whenever I try something new is I learn as much as I possibly can about it. So I just dove into the MM genre and just read very widely. And then sort of started to kind of pick, oh, okay, I think I could maybe do that or maybe try this and then try it and then realize that I'm either good at it or not. Learn a lot of the technical side of things. And I'm still very, very much at the early stages of learning the technical side of writing. But yeah, it's just this process of just being really kind of committed. And I think, especially with the Vet Shop Boys series, it was really about putting the readers first. Like, I really want readers to have a good time when they read my books. And by really focusing on, as I write, what am I thinking that readers are feeling or thinking or going through, and what do I want to evoke in them? And really putting the reader front of mind, as well as the creativity, as well as the plot, as well as all the technical things. And I think Vet Shop Boys just really kind of hit that balance quite nicely. So, yeah, that's about it.
They're hilarious for one. You did a great job on 'em. I don't really care about blowing
Thank you.
smoke at authors at this point. I don't have to. So I'm not saying that just to be nice to you. It doesn't matter to me. But they're fucking solid. They're great rom-coms. I
Thank you.
suspect that there's a very good editor behind this as well because the books are well edited. And I suspect that process
Oh
is.
my goodness.
Are you going through 2 passes, 3 passes? Is somebody helping you with development editing as well for the stories? How's your process work?
Not development editing, but there is a company called Gay Romance Reviews, and they do a whole bunch of awesome things for MM authors. One of them is like an editing service. So I have an editor through them who is amazing, Marianne. Once she has a look at it, it goes to my amazing beta team who are just incredible. They're just avid romance readers. They love the genre, and then they kind of do their take on it. They'll read it and give me their really great feedback. Then it goes to the proofreader, Laurie, who she does an amazing job. And then by that stage, that's like the 6 to 8 weeks that I was sort of talking about, because the editor does her revisions, comes to me. I have to make the revisions on the revisions, pass it along, do the revisions, pass it along to the proofreader, do the revisions. So yeah, it takes about 6 to 8 weeks, but it's a team. And then of course the ARC team is fantastic too, because sometimes I do just pick up anything after all of that process. There's still stuff that falls through the cracks, and it just kind of kills you, because it's like, 15, 20 people have seen this, and it's still stuff that just gets missed. So, yeah, the ARC team are amazing. So it's about 100 people see the book before it actually comes out. So, yeah, I'm very lucky. I have really, really good, dedicated people around me.
You made the correct decision, in my humble opinion. I'm not an author, but you made the correct decision in hiring a team like that from the very start. I've seen authors that, for whatever reason, I know it's got to be, it ain't cheap, I'm sure, but have started out with not that team, and it takes them, 5, 10, 15, 20 books before they really get their legs under them, because they haven't got that team of making this.
Yeah.
I'm blown away by the incredible package you've got put. I'm not talking about your package, but the package of the books coming out the way it is, it's really quite impressive, man. It's incredible. Plus, I'm familiar with Leslie over there, Leslie Copeland at least. We've chatted back and
That's
forth a
right.
few times. They're fantastic. I didn't realize you were using them, but kudos to
Yep.
you and kudos to them.
Yep.
Great job.
Yep.
The little edits that slip through. Do you self-edit along the way, or are you just doing a rough draft and moving on to the next step and getting all that off to your first stage of your editing team?
I try and get it as clean as possible to the editor, because I was reading, and I think this is true based on just also talking to other authors, is even the best editor will, let's say they catch 99% of the mistakes. So 1% will always slip through. So you just want to make that 1% as little as possible. So I do try and get it to as good a stage as possible. Still not great, but if I can pick up as much myself, it just makes the editor's job easier. And then for the betas and the proofreader too. So it just has that flow on effect. So I try and catch as much of it without burning too much time on it either. Because, you've got to weigh up, do I keep writing words, or do I, just edit the words I've already written. So
Mhm.
it's a balance.
We go through the same thing over here. In so far as we need to make a decision to where we spend our time. We have a pre-reading team. Our team is very small. It's 2 people, but we have pre-readers. Then we go through the recording process where I do it in front of a crowd, which is kind of like my beta team. We've got editing on the back end after that. Plus we have software that we run on it too. So there's a whole stage and it, and you kind of got to decide how much time do I spend on this versus should I be recording more words myself instead? And it's a whole decision.
That's right. Yeah.
I also think that when you started out like this, when you started out with a great team behind you, it made a huge difference on, and I can only speak from my experience, but the audio side of it. For one, you were able to get with Tantor with your first series, which is impressive. That's a fairly large company, and they took you on, which gives you the ability to hire somebody in audio that maybe, as a new author, you might not be able to, quite frankly, afford. There's no other easier way to put that, but audio is not cheap by any stretch of the imagination. That's a huge investment. We talked about it before you got with Tantor, and Tantor had already made an offer to you,
Yeah.
that's impressive, dude.
Yeah.
Also, I think that one of the reasons Tantor did this was not only the success of your books, but also because they are well edited. That makes a huge difference to everybody on my side of the street. We don't have to, from my side as a narrator, I don't have to correct shit along the way, but also on Tantor's side, because they're proofing it, they don't have to match those corrections. So they are looking for a well-edited book. Just for any authors out there, like if you want to get with somebody like Tantor or anything, like if your shit's well edited, it makes all the difference in the world. And I have no doubt that process is
Yep.
not cheap, but I,
But it's also running a business. Like as much as I love writing for the passion, like and the creativity and the ability just to do something that I love, I also approach it as a business. And if you approach any business that you were doing, if you opened a restaurant, you wouldn't be in the kitchen and serving and doing all of the other things. You'd hire some people to help you with your business. So I always knew that there would be costs involved. I factored that in before I started to get myself into a position where I could afford some of those initial costs. And then when I couldn't, like you said, audio is super, super expensive. It became about researching what are the different options and avenues available to get audiobooks out. And Tantor is just a really great example of that. They're an awesome company, and the process works better for, or can work better for authors who, especially in their sort of like initial stages of their career. So it's a business. There are costs involved, but you also make money out of it too on the other end, hopefully. So yeah, that's just been the way I've approached it.
we went through the same, being an actor in a booth like I do, there's initial equipment costs involved, which are not cheap by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
There's
Yep.
also the cost. It depends on your technical level of expertise. For instance, I'm an incredibly good editor of audio. That's what I did for a long time. I'm much better at editing audio than I am recording audio. I'm a much better editor than I am an actor. It's just my skill set. I'm a technical guy. That's what I do well. I'm more comfortable in that regard. But
Right.
most actors that are starting out do not have that skill set, and they need to hire out to professional audio editors. And we still, to this day, hire out professional proofers. We use a live proofer now with Trace, but and we employ a software in the back end as well. But all these things are costs that narrators don't take into consideration when they start. And many of them start with the mindset of, I can't afford to hire an editor or a proofer. And I'm here to tell you, you can't afford not to. It's just that fucking simple.
That's right.
Otherwise, there's no way you get to one level from here to here without it. It just ain't fucking happening.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for having this technical conversation. I appreciate it, especially because it's goddamn 7:30 in the morning over there. So I apologize. So tell me about the painting behind you. What's going on with that? Is that something that you or your partner did? Did you buy that somewhere? Where did you find it?
We bought it for. We used to. There used to be like this really random furniture store close to where we lived. So we'd pop in there occasionally, and this was like a really expensive painting, like a couple of $1,000, but it has like a little tiny scratch on it somewhere. So we got it for 80, which
Huh.
is just crazy. But because it's so big, it wouldn't fit in the car, it wouldn't fit in the ute, and the furniture store was like maybe a mile from our house, but we lived on top of a hill. So we just go, look, you know what we're going to do? It's pretty light. It looks heavy, but it's actually quite light. So we carried it along the main road, up the hill all the way to our house. It took us like 40 minutes to do it. But I'm like, for an $80 painting, I don't care who's looking at us. I don't care how many cars, are like, beeping at us. We are going to do this and we are going to have this painting. So now we have this painting and everyone loves it.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I was blown away by it. It's a gorgeous painting.
Yeah.
My one of my
Yeah.
brothers is a professional artist, and he's been an illustrator for years. Now, this is not a story about his artwork. This is a story about a piece of art. I don't know if when you were a kid, my parents had this one painting in our living room, and it was a painting. It kind of looked like a Bob Ross painting. It had a little dirt road going through a little forest with little pine trees and shit, and you could see a pond in the background. And I remember just staring at that picture for hours when I was a small child, 3 years old, 4 or 5. So those were some of my first memories, right? So years ago, my parents were moving out of their umpteenth house, and I took that painting, and it's still in our living room today. It's
Oh,
just,
wow.
yeah, it's this painting's got to be 40 or 50 years old. I'm older than, I'm 45, 44, I think. I don't know. Fuck, I don't know how old I am. 44. But yeah, it's one of those. Do you find yourself like I stared at that painting for hours, and like I imagined myself in that scene. Do you ever find yourself doing that with that painting? Because it is gorgeous, by the way.
Well, this one sometimes, because it's I'm sitting at the dining sort of table. It's in a dining room. So yeah, sometimes I will just, when I'm sitting on the opposite end and just, look at it. Yeah, absolutely. And we also don't know if we actually have it the right way up, because you can have like the water and then the sky is orange, but then if you flip it, and sometimes we have flipped it, you can have the red earth, like it's in Australia, and then the blue is the sky. So we kind of don't know which way it actually works. So yeah,
That's
that's something that we think about a bit.
that's way cool. I never even considered that, but you're absolutely right.
Yeah,
That could be the case in Australia. That's
yeah.
fucking awesome, man. We
Everything's upside down here, so
It's the upside down world. Now, I've asked you a shit ton of technical questions and all that fun stuff, and you've put up with all those. And trust me, I can keep on going on. But do you have any questions for me? I've been your first audiobook experience here. Do you have any questions you want to ask me today?
well, look, I have some questions, John, but I also have some viewer, fan, listener questions as well. So do we
Okay.
have time to go through a couple
Yeah, so
of
hang on
those,
here
or?
because I have been set up entirely. See, Tracy, one of her jobs
Oh,
is,
you have,
yeah,
yes.
yeah. Tracy, one of her jobs is occasionally to kind of prod me along in the interview, and that's what she does it. So what she does, but yeah, I saw that come across. I was like, oh, maybe he has a question for me. I'll go ahead and ask. But no, I've been set up. So all right, here we go. I'll take my setup like a man. What do you got for me?
All right, cool. All right. So Barbie asks a question. If John led a different life in which he wasn't allowed to do work related to music or audio, what career would he have?
Porn star. That's pretty obvious. Porn star. I
Oh,
uh,
yeah.
I've
Okay.
I've never, and I'm not going to get a little personal here for a second with you. I've never eaten a man's ass before because I'm not gay. But if one were to pay me $20 as a porn star, I would do that, and I have the beard for it. So there's your answer.
Okay. Awesome. Well, there you go, Barbie. That's your answer. Asta asked a question. How do you keep your voice from going hoarse while narrating? I dictate my books and I swear I need a break every 20 to 30 minutes or I can't talk all day.
Now this, I'm gonna normally with these kind of questions, I always give a jokey answer. All right, and that's what I'm John Solo. It's what I fucking
I
do.
was expecting like a Mariah Carey humidifier situation.
Yeah, no, but there's actually
Yeah.
for years I was a heavy smoker for years, which you would not think that, me being a voice actor, but I was also a local, nothing big, but a local rock star for years before I was a voice actor. So this is what we did. We played loud rock music. We did a lot of drugs, and we drank a lot, and we smoked a lot of cigarettes, and occasionally we had sex with people. It's the fucking gig, right? That's what you sign up for.
Yeah.
So when there was a distinct change, now if anyone is an actual fan of me, there might be 2 or 3 of you in the crowd that are not here to watch Casey. And if that is the case, there was a distinct crossover point in my career of right around 2019. Right in that range is when I quit smoking cigarettes. And when that happened, my voice changed a lot. And where I used to, at the point of hitting about a finished hour a day, somewhere in there, I would go hoarse at that point. even though I still do vape sometimes, quite a bit more than I probably should, my voice changed, and I'm able to. I've been using my voice my whole life, but I'm able to. I guess what I'm trying to tell you is I can go a long time. There's my joke. I worked into it. So, yeah. So that's how abusing my voice for a lot of years. It's like I ran with weights on my ankles for a lot of years, and then I just took them off in 2019, and now it's fucking easy. So yeah, there's that.
Did it change the sound of your voice, or is it just the your ability to be able to talk for longer?
Absolutely. If people go and listen to any of my material before 2019, I had a very nasally quality to my voice. And then when I stopped smoking, that went away, and suddenly I have a much clearer voice. And amazingly enough, I get
Wow.
there have been the occasional, especially reviewers like him at Audio Book Reviews and a few others, have actually noticed that and said he doesn't sound so nasally anymore. That's because I quit smoking.
Yeah, right. Cool. Okay. I think that's all. I have a question for you as well, actually. Speaking of setups and Tracy and the like, I'd like to know, in your career, what's been one of the hardest words you've ever had to pronounce?
Okay, so I have several listed here, and one of them is going to be a recent one. But first, never use the word wisps in any of your books ever, because I will substitute another word out, and I don't care if Tantor tells me to record it or not again. Wisps. You just try putting that in a sentence and put the S on the end of it too. So WISP, right? Like my beard is wispy,
All right. Okay.
right? But then you add an S onto it. Wisps. Just try that sometime. That's a
How
bitch of a.
how
Go
would you
ahead.
use that in a sentence? Like, what would the sentence be?
My author hates me so bad that his words are wisps. I don't know. I'm not a fucking author. You kid.
That's really yeah.
Yeah, it's. But trust
Strange
me, it
word.
happens, and it is goddamn hard. Anything French, you guys are correct in the crowd that are saying anything French. Although I've taken on a couple books now with French specifically for the challenge of it, and as long as I know it's coming in advance and the author isn't just tossing a random, like, why just toss a random French word, and why would you do that to anybody? But
Right.
if I know like they're going to be speaking French, that's fine. I've got a great team behind me, and they lay it out, and I can pronounce it. But the most
So,
recent one,
am I hearing? Oh,
go
sorry.
ahead.
You go.
Well, the most
Sorry, no.
recent one
Your most
here
recent one.
is one of the authors is she married an Iranian. Her name's Patty Logan, one of my favorite authors. I love her to death. She's a good friend. And the Iranian, or Persian, as they like to say, they speak Farsi. And one of the names in her books is actually it's. I'm going to do this off mic so I don't ruin my fucking microphone. Howard Zadeh. That spitty sound at the beginning, that right there.
Yeah.
Try doing that on a $1,500 condenser microphone sometime without just destroying your $1,500 condenser microphone sometime, because you're just like blowing it. It's the worst fucking thing
Yeah.
ever. So I had to do that not less than 50 times in all character voices. So everything from an older woman who talks with an Arabian, and she had to go hours a day like that, all the way up to like little
All right.
kids, and they're doing like the little 5-year-old hours a day. It was bullshit, just absolute
Oh my
fucking.
God.
I almost tacked $50 onto my price just cause. But anyways, so there's three good examples right there.
So, am I hearing that you like a challenge?
Yeah, actually, yeah. I'm not joking there. Yeah, I really do. I've done a lot of fucking books, Casey. I've done a lot of books. At this point, I get
All
a
right.
little bored. So yes, I do.
Would you like a challenge right now then?
I knew I was setting myself up in my answer there, but you challenged my pride, so I had to say yes. So yes, please, for the love of God, give me a challenge, Casey Cox.
All right. So I don't think you know about this, because you wouldn't have gone down this path if you had. But in Vet Shop Boys 5, Got Me Going, which I think you will start narrating shortly, there is a word. It's a real place. It's a real town in New Zealand. It relates to a character. I didn't just throw it in there for no reason. It makes sense. But this is the name of the town. It's got the world record for the longest named town in the world. I'm going to hold up this piece of paper, and if you can pronounce it correctly, first. Oh, just give it a go. Just give it a go. I won't even make it
Yeah,
about
yeah,
pronouncing it
yeah.
correctly, but just see. Tell me what you see. Can you see that?
Yeah, yeah. No, I can see that. I here, let me see if I can get it right here. Tamacha, what a bit of skip a few. Ooh, there we go. What the fuck is that? What the fuck are you even doing to me?
It's 85 letters, and it is a real town in New Zealand. They have like this, I think, sign of the town, and people, it's like a tourist attraction now. People go there and they get their photo taken in front of it. But this is a real thing that you're going to have to be saying in book five.
Oh, I can't wait for the proofers on that one. That's going to be fantastic. They're going to make me redo it
I honestly
over.
did,
Go ahead.
I just didn't think of it when I was writing it. I didn't think of the narrating, and I just yeah, I have yeah, but it makes sense to keep it in because it works for the story. But I just yeah, I don't know how you're going to do it. But you're so amazing that I have no doubt that you will be able to do it.
Yeah. So that brings me to one final, and I'm going to get back to a technical thing here. Do you read your books aloud when like you'll write something and then you will read it back to yourself aloud? Do you ever do that?
Um, I've actually started since we had the conversation about how you made the point about how group conversations are difficult for you because you've got to remember, like, as the series progresses and more characters come into it, when they catch up again, all of a sudden you go from having four characters to like eight around a table, and you've got to do all the different voices. So I am just more conscious of that. Um, but yeah, that's something ever since we had that conversation.
There's we were talking about editing earlier, and oftentimes what I've found, I actually just had this conversation with another author recently, Victoria Sue, and this is kind of a conversation in the background, how some things you just don't catch until you read aloud. It's nearly impossible. And it's an interesting thing. I can almost tell, and with yours I couldn't at all, but I can almost tell from the writing when an author reads their words aloud or not. Admittedly, I've been at it a while, but it's an interesting, we'd also talked about self-editing a bit ago, and it's an interesting way to self-edit oftentimes. And some
Mm,
authors will actually, they'll have like Alexa or Google or whatever your assistant is, they'll have that read it aloud to them so they can hear the words back to themselves and they catch using the same word twice and all that fun shit that you just wouldn't hear otherwise, if that makes any sense.
yeah. And that's really interesting because I've been reading. I'm obsessed about the technical side of writing, and because I just keep wanting to get better and stronger and develop my craft a lot. And I read a line in a book, and it really stuck with me, and that is that the writing should be like an invisible curtain between the author and the reader. So it's not about trying to be really clever with your words or using these little tips and tricks or like alliteration here or this or that. In fact, you should try and not have that because anything that kind of makes the reader aware of the words or of the writing pulls them out of whatever is happening in that scene. And that was just like a huge moment for me because I always thought the more I did that sort of stuff, maybe the better I would be. Where it's completely reframed how I look at writing and been about it's not about the words, it's about making sure that the reader is in it, whatever it is happening on the page or the screen.
That is so fantastic of a point, in my opinion, just because I can relate it to the way I have to work. One of the biggest lessons I learned
Yeah.
in my entire career was if they are paying attention to me, I'm not doing my job. They need to be able to immerse
Yeah.
themselves in the story, and there's a trust level that goes on between a narrator and a listener. As soon as I do something that pulls them out of the story for a second, I've lost, and they probably aren't going to trust
Yeah.
me for the rest of the book. And that, as long as I've been at it, I still mess that up sometimes, where I go outside of my ability level. That happens sometimes, especially with accent work and that kind of thing. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's just a silly inflection that I am not in the scene enough, and I will forget, and I will express an emotion with an inflection on a character who wouldn't have reacted that way really, and the reader will be taken out, and then I've lost their trust. It's the most important thing to me in the world for the reader to just forget about me. I don't fucking care.
Yeah.
Forget about me and involve yourself in the story, wrap yourself up. But fantastic point, dude. That's you're dead on.
Mm. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
dude, you've done fantastic. I'm sorry that the listeners here right now don't
Thank
know, but
you.
I had to you had to get up your partner to help you with the computer issue, and I tell him I'm so sorry about that. It's horrible.
It's all good. It's all good.
I love having you on, dude. You're welcome anytime. I also know
Thank you.
I as always I missed some comments, so if you can jump into the comments afterwards and answer a few of them in text form, that'd be fucking
Yeah, for
awesome.
sure. For sure.
Cool. And
No worries. We'll do.
thank you, Trace, for setting me up with all those questions. I do appreciate that in advance. And this is the easy part, man. Thanks for coming on. Wave bye to the camera. We are done. All right.
Thank you so much. Thanks, John.